Hello everyone, it's Dark7. Today we are playing Mardu Sacrifice Brew with Sephirot Fabled Soldier. Okay, so I think the two main things you have to decide on when brewing and building a list like this is, are you going to play Faithless Looting or not, or are you going to go for Mardu or stay in Rakdos? Okay, so these are the two main questions. I went through brewing phase with covering all that. You can follow my X account for more posts on both Rakdos and Mardu lists and process in between and the lists I tested, but this is, I think, what I liked the most. I think in the end, in first I liked version without looting, but in the end, when I tried Mardu, I ended up with a looting list that also used Flage, Bloodgust and Lingering Souls. So with addition of Lingering Souls going into Mardu, I think looting becomes a bit more a bit better, and then you also have access to Flage, which you can basically play almost on curve, always on curve in this list, and you also gain access to the powerful Ajani bombardment combo, which alone wins a lot of games. Okay, so this is it. We have 3 Faithless Looting in this build. I played 4 in the process. I trimmed to 3 so I can fit some other cards I wanted to fit. And we got all the good Rakdos stuff. We got Fatal Pushes, Unearths, Bombardment, Bloodgust, Sephirot, Seasoned Pyromancer. But we also got Ajanis, Lingering Souls, Flage, of course looting here to support Bloodgust and Lingering Souls plus Flage better. In a version without looting, I did not play Bloodgust, I did not play Flage, I did not play Lingering Souls, so there are some big differences between those versions. In the Rakdos version, let's say, without looting, you get to play cards like Doughty Voidwalker, which is a big plus against a lot of decks. Doughty is still a good card. So there are some pros and cons for playing each of these iterations. I think there's a lot to explore in this archetype, but from playing all these versions at the same time in like 3 days difference, this is what I like the most, and I decided to do video on the Mardu version. Okay, so I also played a bunch of leagues with it and tweaked the list and the sideboard in the process, and I think this is what I ended up with and what I like the most. I think this sideboard is very good. Mainboard, the only card I'm still considering including either mainboard or sideboard are maybe some copies of Totsis. Maybe like a couple of Totsis in the main, but that depends on your in the sideboard, but that depends on your meta game and what are you struggling against in your local meta, or if you're playing MTGO, what is the current meta like? Because it's in constant change here on MTGO. Okay, so this is it. Very simple. A sideboard. We got some land hate, got pest control, which is good against so many things, artifact decks, energy. So Clarion Conquerors against artifacts and creature combos. We got a couple of graveyard hate pieces, and of course Wear Tears and Molten Collapse, a great additional removal for a deck. Okay, so before we go to the gameplay, let me remind you of my dictionary profile. Link is down below in the video description. As always, we have base and zoo tier. These are both zoo tiers, and we have Eldrazi tier. Okay, as always, you have base tier guides here, zoo tier guides here. So total, there's like 9 or 10 fresh guides here, plus Eldrazi aggro guides. And I'm currently on my vacation, but next week coming back to making more guides. And I also got a new, worked on new Obosh Ketramos build, which is still very strong deck that nobody's playing. Guide is here, and I'm planning on updating that as well. We can now go to the gameplay and see how it went. Okay, so let's go. This is starting from a match 1. Okay, so opponent plays Talisman of Creativity. This tells me that they are on some kind of Eldrazi build, probably some version playing Through the Breach. There's like no other deck that uses these cards in Modern. Okay, so here is Eugene's Labyrinth, and they already have 5 mana, So it is possible for them to go for through the breach and miracle here, but opponent just passes this turn. Okay, so now I have a decent hand, but maybe not that good against a deck that my opponent is playing. Actually, I wanted to, my plan was discard the Pyromancer here, but I kind of brain farted. And I went to unearth the Pyromancer, but then I see I didn't discard it, so yeah, it was the big fail. Okay, opponent go, it didn't actually matter, I think this wouldn't change almost anything. Next turn, my opponent goes through the breach and miracle and kills me. Okay, so I needed, actually it wasn't a game over, it wasn't game over, and I returned the Bloodgust. I returned Bloodgust and now I got my second land return on 1 life. This is actually funny. I got the white land, put looting in the graveyard and unearthed my seasoned Pyromancer. So it ended up actually decent for me here to have that unearthed in hand post board wipe. Okay, I'm on 1 life, so opponent will have to find some way to finish me. And here they go, play one big Kozilek comment, yeah, and they dig deep to find some solutions to win here, and they tap out for a big Portent of Calamity, but it didn't actually work out for them, and they have to wait for another turn. But it's just not a big deal when they have through the breach and a miracle. They found both of these cards last turn, so I have the kill, I come back into the game and had a kill next turn, but opponent finds another miracle breach and that is game 1. Okay, so let's check out game 2. Deck is pretty bad against this type of decks in game 1, but is great in game 2. So let's see how game 2 changes things. Okay, so I don't need fatal pushes, they basically don't play any small creatures I can kill with it. What I want is Conquerors to stop the Eldrazi Scions. As you could see in last game, they are very important for them. Getting mana from Eldrazi Scions is big thing, and Fulminator Mages to kill their lands plus Wear Tears, of course. Okay, so here it is. I have Fulminator Mage and double unearth. Seems pretty good. I can start killing their lands next turn. Okay, so I have Ajani, I can flip it, but first I want to go for Fulminator here. So I play my Fulminator and pass a turn. Okay, now I wait for opponent. I didn't think I'm in a hurry here. I could kill their land immediately, but what I didn't want to happen is to leave them with Eldrazi Temple and then try to unearth my Fulminator and have them Kozilek command my Fulminator from the graveyard. That would be terrible. So what I wanted, for that reason, I did it like this. So let them have one more Eldrazi Scion here, but be sure that I will be unearthing my Fulminator. And in the process, I kill their Eldrazi Scions. I kill their Eldrazi Scions and kill their second Eldrazi Scion as well, and then unearth my Fulminator and kill their land, so they're only now on a single land. Let's see how that works out. And here you can see my opponent has has Eugene's Labyrinth, and they find a Kozilek's Return with their Portent of Calamity, so Kozilek's Returns is in their hand. I go for another Fulminator to kill their Eugene's Labyrinth, and then I do a lot of damage to face with my creatures, go in for 5, and my opponent actually has another Eugene's Labyrinth to play Kozilek's Return, but yeah, that just doesn't matter. I will they have to play Kozilek's Return now, and I deal 3 to face. I have a Conqueror for the next turn to finish job, and that's it. Okay, so I also could just use the Ajani ability before that. And here we can see I kept Stitcher Supplier unearthed hand. These type of hands can sometimes end up amazing, and sometimes they can be a bit awkward. Let's see how this one goes. I find Ajani, and it is a double Ajani, so I can flip Ajani turn 2. That is pretty crazy. Turn 2 Ajani flip, but my opponent has 2 Eldrazi temples. They could have a Kozilek's command. Let's see what happens here. So first I play Ajani and I go for a Ajani flip, trying to unearth my second Ajani here. And yeah, turn 2 Ajani flip is pretty crazy. It lines up great with Sephirot on turn 3, plus I can haste my Sephirot with Arena of Glory. That is pretty sick. Okay, so here they go for... They had the Kozilek's command this entire time, and they did not choose to use it, which is maybe a bit weird. Okay, but opponent plays Island here, passes the turn. Let's see what happens. So now I decide to go for a Seasoned Pyromancer first. I wanted to, for Ajani ability, to do damage. And yeah, I started pumping my Cat Warrior tokens to maybe play around Kozilek's return. Here my opponent finds Shivan Reef. I'm on 16 life. If in case they have Emrakul, then in that situation going for additional token with Ajani is maybe better. But this way I can maybe play around the Kozilek's command if I pump my tokens to 3 toughness next turn. That can very easily beat them. Okay, so my opponent goes for Portent of Calamity, and I have a kill next turn, so they needed to do something this turn, and yeah, they didn't find a solution there, so that is match 1. Let's check out match 2. Okay, so match 2 playing against Zoo. They started with a Leyline on the field, and I have a kind of a medium hand here. I will go for a turn 1 Surveil and see what happens. Okay, so my opponent forgets to attack with Nakatal this turn. Okay, but I go for a Surveil. I find Push on Top. Push on Top is great in this situation. So I can just play my fetch, and I go for a Fatal Push. I decide to go for a Fatal Push immediately. Opponent surveils Flage in the yard. That is pretty solid. I will go for a Surveil here myself and see what's on top. Opponent just passes a turn. They don't play anything. I leave another Fatal Push on top. Okay, so I have some options here. I was thinking between playing push this turn or just not playing anything. I decided to go for push and Bloodgust. Prepare next turn to go for Sephirot. Sacrifice Bloodgust, then I can return Sephirot. I can return Bloodgust from the graveyard. Yeah, Bloodgust and Sephirot just work very well together. You can see here my opponent has a Flage from the graveyard escape. That is of course big problem, and yeah, I will definitely have problems coming back to the game after this. But I have a blocker in Stitcher Supplier. Okay, I sacrifice a Bloodgust here. In the process I gain some life, return my supplier to the return my Bloodgust to the field, play supplier. I have 2 blockers now. Next turn I can go for a Flage and unearth Flage to kill their Flage. That is a real option. Here my opponent attacks, kills my Sephirot, and I chump block with Stitcher Supplier. Also I'm getting another Bloodgust back, so I still have a chance here. Let's see what opponent does. They only hardcast another a Leyline, but when I draw the Fatal Push, this gives me another out. So I can just push the Flage. I don't need to use Unearth on it. I can go Unearth my Bloodgust, draw a card, gain a life in the process, get back my Bloodgusts from the graveyard with Arena of Glory. Arena of Glory is also great against with my Flage, of course. Okay, so I kill their Flage, gain some more life, and play Flage from my hand, target them face, and now we are both on 14 life, and I was in a desperate situation last turn, and it all changed, and it changed so much. It changed truly dramatically here. So now I am untapped with 3 creatures on the field, Sephirot drawing me cards, Flage in the graveyard with haste, and basically at this point I can't lose. So I just escape my Flage, my opponent bindings my Sephirot, that is okay. And they obviously have another binding for my Flage, but they let me target them with attack ability first. So they go down to 3 and concede next turn, so that was the game. And it shows that you can really go from 0 to just winning the game next turn. This deck does has some crazy turns, also crazy early turns with Unearth. A lot can happen with Stitcher Supplier. I really had some truly crazy turns, like turn 1 Stitcher Supplier into turn 2 double Unearth into Seasoned Pyromancer, and Sephirot basically getting immediate concedes. Okay, so I surveil a Fatal Push from the top. Whatever my opponent does here, I'm golden. So if they play Scion, I have Wear. If they play Kavu, I have Fatal Push. Really, truly great situation for me here. Let's see what happens. Opponent goes for Kavu. So I can just surveil and push their Kavu, and they go for another Kavu here, but I can go for a surveil first. I see a Goblin Bombardment on top. I think that is a great card to have in a situation like this. So I go for a Sephirot, and then I Fatal Push their Kavu. This way I gain 1 life, they lose 1 life. And here is another Fatal Push from the top that is amazing. And I gain more life with Sephirot, attack them down to 7. And once again, I have Sephirot on the field, Arena of Glory, Flage in the yard. My opponent is truly just in a hard losing situation. So I go for a Flage. I escape my Flage here. And my opponent bolts Sephirot in response and has a Leyline Binding to take my Flage, but they are still in a pretty bad situation. So I had some options here. I decided to first go for a Bombardment, and then I can basically try kill next turn. So I can go for I had multiple options, but I decided to go for Arena of Glory and play both of my creatures with haste. My opponent decides to binding my Goblin Bombardment, but I go for Ajani with haste as well. This is 4 damage, and that's too much for opponent, and this was 2-1. In the league, I think I didn't accidentally skip recording 1 match this league. Okay, so let's go check out the 3rd or 4th match this league. Opponent starts. This was mulligan to 4. So I play land, discarded Bloodgust and Faithless Looting, and yeah, pretty hard to mulligan like this. Playing against opponent who had all 7 cards. But yeah, it was not great, but a decent mulligan. Still insanely hard position. I'm hoping to find maybe a white land which can give me some hope, but still it's a pretty hard situation. At least I'm playing stuff. I'm playing stuff on curve, and I did get to kill their Tamio, and I have some stuff on the board. On the field, the graveyard is already full for the Flage, but unfortunately I skipped 1 land on that crucial turn, so my opponent can now find a Soul Guide Lantern, exile my Flage, and then proceed to play out Cory Steelcutter, repeal, and I think this is basically over. But I played some more. They then countered my Ajani, and yeah, I decided to concede. But that was a mulligan to 4, very, very hard situation. Obviously, mulligan to 4 is super hard, but here you can see me boarding in 9 cards, and I was already at this point really experienced with sideboarding, so sideboarding went pretty fast for me in these games. I had a big sideboard, and I played a bunch against this deck. Did I forget one card here? Yeah, I did. Yeah, I put in a third unearthed, and now this looks better. Okay, this definitely looks better. Molten Collapse is great against them, and Ajani is good early threat, and the Clarion Conqueror, of course, can sometimes stop their entire deck. Okay, so I go for Ajani and Passeter. Opponent surveils. Opponent surveils, then plays the Whip Flare. I don't really care that much about Whip Flare. I have a pretty good hand here. Removals, 2 strong removals in my hand, plus unearthed. Clarion Conqueror on the field. Clarion Conqueror is often a key for winning matchups like this. They can't use any of their artifact abilities. This is a big deal against them. I can't obviously can't. Okay, so Seasoned Pyromancer, I don't have a second red, and that is the reason why I put it into the graveyard. I have unearthed, I can return it to the field with unearthed, but I don't want to discard my pest controls and my molten collapses. So my plan is just to be patient with these cards and proceed to attack them with Clarion Conqueror. As you can see, Conqueror stops Emery, stops a bubble, a Cory Steelcutter, and all that, but I decide to kill Emery anyways with Molten Collapse here, since my pest control I plan to play next turn doesn't kill Emery. Okay, so opponent makes another construct and another construct, and then they find another artifact, play another saga. And I only have Clarion Conqueror here. My opponent has some open mana, but yeah, they don't know I have like a triple pest control, which is just super brutal in this situation. So I go for a pest control, they counter that one, and then I go for another one, kill their entire board, and just continue attacking them with Clarion Conqueror. Clarion Conqueror in this game doing all the work, and I have Unearth in my hand in case they kill it. Okay, so they have Soul Guide Lantern, but that doesn't help them much. I still continue attacking with Conqueror. They obviously don't have a solution for a Conqueror here, so I just decide to unearth my Ajani as a blocker in case I need it. I felt like I could maybe need a blocker next turn, so I went for unearth Ajani in case they have some crazy hand. And yes, still Clarion Conqueror on the field, still they can't kill it. So let's see what happens. My opponent is thinking about attacking, but stays back and passes the turn. So I go for another pest control, clearing their board once again. And yeah, so I go attack them for 4, put them down on 1, finish them off on the same turn with Ajani for the win. Okay, so everything I think stays the same in the game 3. This looks great, and I'm ready for game 3. Okay, in game 3 I'm keeping Pest Control, Flage, and the Stitcher Supplier. This seems solid. I start off with turn 1 Supplier. This can be relevant, Supplier finding Bloodgusts and sacrificing to Bombardment. Obviously I will have to let them use that Emery for a turn. This turn I'm just preparing. Next turn I can kill Emery or something else. I have a bombardment on the field as well. Pest control is great against their Urza Saga. Okay, so let's see what happens. This was weird. They didn't use their Emery ability, or they just attacked with Emery. This was kind of weird, but okay. So on this turn, I wanted to escape Flage next turn before they resolve their Urza Saga third counter. So they have the mock somewhere, so they were still able to just, I don't know, this was weird. So they were able to play their Ether Spell Bomb, which would be much better. They would still have mana for Flame of Anor. Okay, so I wanted to escape Flage next turn. I had Arena of Glory in my hand to surprise them with a lot of damage. This is like I'm only missing 3 damage to finish them off in this situation at the moment. Okay, opponent goes for Harbinger of the Seas. This is the only problematic thing they could have at this moment, but I find a solution for Harbinger from the top. Ajani kills Harbinger and just let me do all this stuff, and I can also now put Sephirot into play, draw another card, have flipped Ajani and bombardment on the field. This is all huge. Okay, so unfortunately I was not able to escape Flage last turn, so now my opponent has Soul Guide Lantern and controls my graveyard, but I'm in a great situation anyways. Okay, so I do some damage with Ajani face, attack with Sephirot, sacrifice a Cat Warrior token, draw a card. Okay, now I can also play Seasoned Pyromancer. That seems really good. Okay, I think I first want to kill the Soul Guide Lantern before putting my second Flage in the yard. Yeah, this is actually pretty good for me. I find a Sacred Foundry, but in the end I decided, since they didn't take my graveyard, I decided to do maximum damage here with just my cards, and I played Flage from my hand instead, deal 4 to them, and next turn I can just play Flage, deal 3 phase, then sacrifice Flage with bombardment and finish them off. So okay, that was the game, that was the match against blue-red artifacts. And let's see match number 4 in this video and match number 5 in this league. Okay, so I'm playing against a Dimir frog. They start with a frog. I have Fatal Push. Next turn I can go for a Sephirot, sacrifice my Stitcher Supplier. Here we can see Stitcher Supplier putting 2 Flages in the yard. That was real good. Okay, so there is also Unearth here, which is interesting as well. A lot of options, I go for first white land. I need a white land to escape my Flage next turn, but I don't want to let them use a counterspell on my Flage. Okay, so first I play my Sephirot here, and I draw a card, mill more cards to the graveyard. Unfortunately, there are 2 pushes from the top ended up in my yard. If opponent can attack here, draw a card, they also find a Dismember immediately for my Sephirot. Okay, so definitely there are some options here. I can discard bombardment and return Sephirot, but when my opponent counters my Seasoned Pyromancer, I unearth the Pyromancer, and yeah, so this is my opponent, of course, can attack. They can go through with damage. This time they again exile 3 cards from the graveyard to give flying to the frog. I let this damage through, but next turn I have Lingering Souls. I can make tokens which block their flyers. That seems pretty good for me here. And Opponent plays a 6/6 Murktide, passes the turn. So again, I decided to wait with a Flage. I definitely didn't want to let them counter my Flage, so I used everything I have before that. I played the Lingering Souls. Lingering Souls are great in a situation like this, just delaying my opponent from doing their thing. I can just jump block for a long time, and when my opponent attacked like this, I decided to just block frog with everything, and they can only save their frog if they have fatal push on my spiral and then discard the rest of the hand. But I was able to kill frog, which was great. And still 2 of my spirit tokens here survive, and now my opponent has just 1 card in their hand free for me to escape Flage, and I have 2 flyers blockers here, and my Flage is lethal next turn. This is a big deal, okay? This is truly a big deal. And I have a blocker, I have a Flage attacking, they have to trade with Flage. It's a now suddenly pretty bad situation for opponent, and they concede. Okay, I board in the Molten Collapses, the Nihil Spell Bombs, just trim on some of my graveyard related cards, and I'm ready for game 2. Okay, so this is weird hand, a bunch of unearths, which can be really dead, but can be very useful in if game goes long. Okay, so let's see what happens here. Opponent, I started cycling my unearths. I really want to find like a Spyro, but as soon as I find a first good creature, then Ajani becomes any good creature becomes really good, because when they kill it, I have my unearths to just be annoying and bring them back over and over again. Okay, my opponent has to exile cards from the yard to continue doing this. And Lingering Souls are pretty good in delaying my opponent, delaying frog, jumping them, stopping them from drawing cards. My Cat Warrior stays back, so they have to exile cards from the yard once again. I put Bloodgust on the bottom, and I just pass a turn here. My opponent has to exile cards from the yard to give flying. This way they just pump their frog and help me flip my Ajani. This makes more blockers for me, and my opponent has removal, but as I was talking before, now I have Unearth, and I can really be annoying in the mid game with Unearths, bringing back these creatures, and now also Lingering Souls blocking the frog. It's actually a terrible situation at the moment for opponent, also considering that they are mana screwed, and here they find their third land. Okay, so I can make more Lingering Souls tokens. Here is Flage as well. Flage in the yard now too. I can flash back my Lingering Souls and play the Nihil Spellbomb. Next turn I can go for a Flage Escape. It seems like a really strong situation. Okay, I continue attacking my opponent. I have Nihil Spellbomb. It will be hard for them to resolve Murktide or something like that, and yeah, my opponent concedes, and that is a very nice 4-1 league, and I had a bunch of those with this deck. I had one 3-2 league, I had one 0-2 drop, and I had 4 4-1 leagues. That is in total amazing overall score for a deck that I just played. In the beginning it didn't look like this, so all that versions played with the untweaked worse versions of a deck until I came to this build, which I liked more, and then in the process deck started performing better and better, and the last 3 leagues were all 4-1, and deck really felt strong and had some crazy turns. I didn't have that. I had some strong early turns in this league, but not as crazy, and in some other I remember going turn 1 Stitcher Supplier find Pyromancer, Turn 2, unearth my Pyromancer, discard Sephirot from my hand, and then unearth Sephirot as well to only untap, attack with Sephirot, and play Bombardment and unearth Ajani. That was really had some crazy turns, and but I had some turn 2 Ajani flip in this league as well, and also Stitcher Supplier, often finding Flage, Bloodgust and Lingering Souls feels very strong. Stitcher Supplier is not just 1 mana 1/1 in this deck, it really does a lot. It's Enabler, it works great with Sephirot, fills graveyard very fast for Flage, and finds your unearthed targets. It's a really solid piece. I liked, I went with 4 looting, but I liked trimming to 3 looting in the process. Often post board I trim to 2 looting, but I always keep at least 2 in the main deck. I think it's an important enabler for a deck, but not necessarily a 4-off for a version like this. So in the end, this is my final version. I hope you like the video, hope you like the gameplay. For the end, click like, click subscribe, comment down in the video, tell me what do you think. Do you prefer going Rakdos or Mardu for Ajani, Lingering Souls, Flage? Make sure you check out my other Rakdos and Mardu builds on I posted on X through last week, and that's it. Okay, so thank you for watching once again, and goodbye.